Hey everybody, good afternoon. Sound check please. Can you hear me? Hey Paul, how are ya? Hey George, good to see you. Tom, as always, good to see you. All right, and we have Reinhold from earlier. Good to see you as well. Let's get started. We're going to be going over the market, and then we'll go over the open positions. We'll go over the watch list for tomorrow. I'll take questions. We'll do all sorts of things. It will do what we always do, right? Okay, so first, the market was an up and down session, as you can see, up, no, down, up, down, and we finished on an up note. I mean, the market closed pretty bullish on the day, and the thing about the market is that we have these conflicting charts. The daily is in a downtrend, but it's trying to break the downtrend, and the weekly is a buy setup. So that's the daily chart right at the declining 20, and the weekly is a buy setup. The buy setup triggered last week on the Qs, hasn't triggered yet on the SPY, just on the Qs, and but the buy setup on the weekly got sold, turned into a topping tail bar. So we may need a few more days before we know for sure which way we're headed. But we break under today's low, we're more likely headed lower, right? Because that would be the beginning of an M pattern, basically. But really, what we need to break under would be Friday's low, to be sure. But we shouldn't even break under today's low. Okay, if we do, then it would look more likely lower than higher. If we continue higher here, or we start the base up here, then we would be looking at a long over this bar's high, okay, which is Thursday's high. So we're really now looking for a break of Thursday's low. I'm sorry, of Thursday's high to be bullish, or Friday's low to be bearish. Breaking under yesterday's low would also be a heads up that we're probably lower, but that's not going to be very, it's not going to be a conclusive, it's not going to be conclusive enough to tell us that we're lower, breaking under today's low. But it would be, it would be an early warning sign that we might be lower. So it's day by day until the market either breaks out or breaks down, basically. In the meantime, one can be prepared and look for weekly buy setups, or things that are ready to trigger long, and especially the ones that are maybe potentially long term, like Tesla is a nice weekly buy setup. That's not bad at all. But some of the other names, also the big names, have weekly buy setups. Microsoft, Apple, they're not great, admittedly, they're not very good, and that's why I think this weekly buy setup is not gonna be smooth sailing. I don't think we're gonna go right back up, especially on something like Apple, starts with a wide range red bar. So more likely than not, we're gonna have a choppy period, I think, for a while. That's what I think. Unless we drop. If we drop, then no, we may have nice follow through. But if we go up, I think it's gonna be a little bit choppy going forward. Okay, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so here's Meta, also weekly buy setup. So we have a bunch of stocks that are doing weekly buy setups. In terms of the portfolio, let's talk about first what was called today and what triggered and didn't trigger. So here's all the plays that were called today. The CELH, I'm starting to question whether I should do it or not, because the stop is just so big if I use this bar's low. So it's 183, no, it's 185.05, stop under 167.17. You might say, well, why not use this? You can, but tighter stop, not as secure, but you can. Maybe that's what I ought to do, is use the tighter stop, because otherwise it's too big of a stop. It didn't trigger. So the CELH, I'm thinking about using 174 rather than 167 going forward. Design triggered long. It's very weak, but I like the base, so I was willing to give it a shot. And it triggered long. We'll see on the design. NCMI, I had a call on it to add to the position over the base. It's actually over 450, but it hasn't triggered. So will remain valid for tomorrow, even though it's a little bit sloppy. I have to admit it's a little bit sloppy. And then the CELH, I may also do it tomorrow, but I'm thinking about using the tighter stop. PAGP triggered and didn't go anywhere. It barely triggered and then came in. So I'm hoping it triggered by like 2 cents. The entry was at 1607. It went to 1609. I'm really hoping this goes back up. The stop is way down here, so it's not, it's barely down basically. So we'll see how the PAGP does. Tesla triggered but came in, so we'll see on Tesla's. Tesla stop is all the way down here, so just now it needs to take out 244, 244.40 basically. And then Disney didn't trigger. WWW didn't trigger. Still looks okay for tomorrow as a short on the WWW. Disney doesn't look good. ZI didn't trigger. Looks great, but it doesn't seem to have any momentum. For some reason, it doesn't seem to have much momentum. I don't know why, because it had a perfect weekly 1, 2, 3, and it barely dropped. And now has a daily sell setup that's really nice too. So I'm not 100% sure about it because I feel like there's no momentum. Zim didn't trigger. And Zim is not available on every platform. Some platforms have it, some don't. So I don't know if you have it or not on the ZIM, but didn't trigger either. Looks good for tomorrow. So 5 plays still look good for tomorrow. And then 3 triggered today, which were all long. The Tesla, the Design, the DSGN, and the PAGP, which is oil. So that's what triggered today. In terms of open positions, we have a nice portfolio, by the way. Like positioned to hopefully do well in the long run. BA is at the forefront of that because BA is a transition A on the monthly and looks higher long term. Looks really good. BA long term. So if it goes up a little bit more, I'll raise the stop to this bar's low, 212. But for now, we'll keep the original, which is 207 here. I raised it actually 207. The original was down here somewhere. That's BA. FTI is about to break out on the daily. FTI has been in it for a couple months now from 1520 something, and it was a tight stop. So we'll see. This is doing well. BA we have twice. BABA also we have twice. 2 positions on the same stock. So BABA is a beautiful, beautiful weekly, and monthly is okay. Transition A on the weekly and the monthly. Weekly is a transitionary buy setup. So it looks good. PDD is reporting. So, I mentioned in the newsletter, in the earnings alert, that I will be keeping it. I hope it gaps up because it looks picture perfect on the weekly. Pretty much picture perfect on the monthly. Pretty much, right? Transitionary buy setup. Daily is a little bit iffy, but I'm playing the larger time frame, so I'm hoping this gaps up. ZI we talked about. It's an open position from here, trailed half over this bar's high, and we have the back half, and I lower the stop on the back half to 1903 over here. So I'm thinking about adding to it. I'll make a decision later tonight, but it's on the watch list for tomorrow as an ad. ENPH, I'm not sure if the ENPH bottomed or what today, because I think it could have. It might have been a bottom. We'll see. I've lowered the stop on the ENPH to 132.50 or so. So it's up here. I'm sorry, not yeah, 132.20 up here. So we'll see. But feel free to take some. It's nice in the money. JKS, the JKS, I didn't want to tighten the stop so much, but I don't have any other stop. Like if I don't use this bar's high, where else would I put the JKS stop? Up here? Too much room. So I decided to lower the stop on the JKS, but it didn't take out yesterday's high. So the stop is over 31.20. Okay, so it'll remain there. It'll remain there. You can also lower it to 31.16. You don't have to give it to 20. VIR trailed today. So VIR got to target one, and then the back half didn't work. It's trailing. I mean, trailed VIR. ZI, we talked about it. There's two positions in it. EXEL is close to target. It was a nice look at the daily base breakout, but also weekly is beautiful. Monthly is nice. The target is about 23 something on the EXEL, 23.25. So it's close, but not close enough to take. The Wish, also, I tightened the trail on the Wish because I didn't know where to put it if not here. So Wish, I trailed it to 521. It got to 524. So Wish also officially trailed for profit, like an R. I still open, so we'll let it play. Stop has been lowered to 19 over 1988. Design, I lower the stop to 16, I think 216. So that trailed for a small loss. I played it as a breakdown and it wouldn't follow through. HRB, breakout, open position. I raised the stop to here, hasn't trailed. We'll see. INOT today popped and then dropped. So I am, we'll see. I don't like the way it popped and dropped today, but stop is here. Nothing to do with it. NCMI we talked about, got in it over the base here. We'll see what it does on the NCMI. So hopefully ends up following through. I like the weekly a lot. Weekly transition A. So I like it. CVS. CVS was called a short last week as a 1, 2, 3, and it immediately didn't follow through. And then today, I mean, not today, the weekend, I lowered the stop to 6781. No, the front half was trailed, and the back half today was stopped. So CVS also out. CWeb long term, hoping it overcomes the daily on the 20 MA on the daily, and ends up transitioning higher. It's a weekly buy setup, transition A buy setup on the weekly. Daily sloppy. DL looks great on the weekly. Looks great. It's on the DAL, so I like it a lot. We'll see. The daily is a little bit difficult, but the weekly looks good. The same with the MSTR, but the DL looks better. I have to admit the DL looks better. Relay, I raise the stop to under the base. It is creating a double top now. Look at the eyes here. I mean, it's creating a double top. It hopefully doesn't, hopefully pops above rather than below. So we'll see on the relay. Lumen broke down, looked good, and it's not following through. Lumen is back up to break even or 2 cents negative. So played the breakdown, got off to a good start, and then back up. Airbnb is also a weekly buy setup, just a deep pullback. So I don't know if it's gonna work or not. The stop is under the base, and I am not changing it. Yen is like the CWeb, but slightly more bullish. Is an ETF, leverage ETF for China. Okay. And then the BTAI triggered short on Friday, and it's just staying weak. It's not moving in either direction at the moment, but looks lower. So those are the open positions and the positions that triggered today. Any questions about any of the stuff? Any questions at all? Let me know. Most plays are in the money, and some of them look good long term. So we'll see. It's gonna all depend on what the market does over this week, over the coming few days probably. So it's gonna depend on what the market does. In terms of the watch list to play long, I mean the bullish daily watch list for tomorrow. Here is what I got. I mostly have long plays. I don't have anything short almost. 3. Okay, so Sammy, yin on Cigna or the UK. What? I don't know what you're saying. Are you asking me about Cigna or the So what are you asking me? Yin is the leveraged ETF for FXI, which is the Chinese ETF. So I like it. I'm in it. I don't like the daily that much on the yen. The call was off the hourly base breakout a few days ago over here, triggered. It's in the money by like $3, basically. So we'll see. I like it on the weekly. I like it on the weekly. Okay. All right. Let me show you what I got here on the for tomorrow. Autodesk. What's the name of the pattern on the daily chart of Autodesk? What do you guys think? What's the name of this pattern? If it triggers tomorrow, it would be called a 1, 2, 3, right? I know you guys know. And then what's the name of the pattern on the monthly? It's a transition A, breakout. The problem with it is it's right into resistance on the daily. So I don't think I can play the Autodesk, even though I really like the monthly. It's because it's into daily resistance. That's the Autodesk. Affirm is also a 1, 2, 3. Doesn't have as much resistance or has more room to resistance. So Affirm is interesting. Long to here, entry here, stop right there. I'm not sure on the Affirm. I'm gonna let it go, but it looks cleaner than the Autodesk on the daily chart. It looks cleaner. ASX, and you guessed it, another 1, 2, 3, and also trapped under resistance. So that's 843 over 828. Stop under 817. On the CELH we know about. It's a weekly 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it would only make sense if we put the stop under last week's low as opposed to the previous week's low. So 174 as opposed to 167. Big difference. A COP is going to the moon, I think. I mean, this is really bullish. Nice monthly buy setup. So I think this is higher, but I'm not playing it for now. It does have a weekly base breakout. Just keeping an eye on it, on the COP oil. DL we talked about. I was thinking maybe we could add to it, but I'm not too sure. Over the base, stop under the red bars low. Beautiful weekly. So that's the DAL. GROV is a 1, 2, 3 is a weekly base breakout or daily base breakout. Weekly 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Really interesting on the GROV. As again daily base breakout, weekly 1, 2, 3. Not 100% sure, but especially not sure about the volume. It did 160,000 shares today, 168. So that's going to be really thin. The relay, if it fails on that top, can that trigger it to a bearish and set up? Yeah, so can we short it? I can't because it's too bullish of a chart. Rising 20s below, not too far below. It came from a tier 1 gap. So I wouldn't short it, but I would play it long if it triggered long, but I wouldn't short it. Okay. Now, IBM, I think, is going to the moon, but this is what happened to IBM. I called it as an earnings play right here. And I meant to hold it long term, and then I forgot to change the symbol the next day on my chart, which has an algo running on it, and I got trailed out the very next day. So unfortunately, I caught it at the right price as an earnings play, but I didn't keep it by mistake. I think the IBM is looking really, really good to $180 or so on IBM. That's the monthly. Here's the weekly, and here's the daily. It's just that I don't see a good entry on it. Keep an eye on it, but I don't see a good entry at the moment on the IBM. Intuit is probably my favorite idea for tomorrow. It has a 1, 2, 3 on the daily chart. So Intuit definitely goes on the favorites. Okay. Man U looks higher on the daily, and it definitely looks higher on the hourly chart. MANU, Manchester United, over the base, stop below it, target the prior highs. So that's the MANU. I'm going to pass on it, but it's not a bad hourly chart breakout. Not bad. Here it is. Let me look at it on multiple time frames. Yeah, it's really pretty. A little bit sloppy. NCMI we talked about. Would like to add to it over the highs, but I didn't like what I saw today on it. So I'm not 100% sure it's going to remain on the favorites list. And then AT&T and Verizon, I think, are bottoming, and they each pay about 8 dividend per, 8 dividend percent, 8% dividend. Jeez, I can't talk. So they each pay about 8%. They each have 8% yield. So AT&T and Verizon, they look okay. AT&T will play it over 1440, 1441, and VZ looks like would be over 3364. Possible transition A. It's not very good, but it's also 8% dividend, and then especially got to support, but especially the AT&T is at all-time low. So interesting. So AT&T and VZ, I may play one or the other. Okay. In terms of the shorts, I got WBA 1, 2, 3, 4 down a lot already, but 1, 2, 3, 4. WWW base breakdown, and then Zim also base breakdown. And those are the watches that I got for tomorrow. All three of these are okay to do, I think. But yeah, that's all I got. It's not a very long watch list. I do have some backup ideas for tomorrow to check out. I'll show you what they are. Logi, monthly transition A. Looks good. And sorry, that's the Logi. The key is a weekly transition A on the weekly chart, but deep pullback on key. Daily also doesn't look ready. So I'm going to pass on the key. Microsoft, we talked about it already. It's a weekly buy setup. Kind of a nice hourly chart, I think, on Microsoft. Sort of over here, long, stop right here. Going to pass for now. Those are just backup ideas. PAGP, we'll see. I don't want to add to it, but I just wanted to watch it. PGen, 1, 2, 3 on a daily base breakout. And let's take a look at the weekly. Transition A breakout. Monthly, probably not very good, but it's not bad at all. So weekly is nice, transition A. Daily is a 1, 2, 3 plus a breakout. So it looks okay. But I'm not going to put an order for it. TMO is trying to do a weekly buy setup on the TMO. So I don't know. We'll see. It's very sloppy on the daily. And then Tesla, we'll see also if it takes out yesterday's high, today's high. And then WD, very bullish gap, doing a 1, 2, 3. But if you look at it closely, it's into target, not above target. So that's kind of the issue. So I'll watch it, but I won't call it. These are my favorite ideas for tomorrow. Let me copy the list real quick. Okay. So I got the list of things that I like for tomorrow. And I also got a copy of the backup ideas. Okay. Any questions? Yeah, CLCO. Let's take a look. CLCO. I don't know. I mean, it's very bullish. CLO. Very bullish on the weekly and the monthly. So I wouldn't worry about this daily chart because the weekly is basing at the highs. So I like it. I don't mind it. Okay. So 14% dividend not too long ago. Wow. It's pretty good. I like it. Okay. TDS. and SBROW. TDS is just up too much, so I would think the likelihood of failure of getting shaken out is high. But it might also be okay. Triggered already today too. And then IBOW is not coming up. SBOW. Uh, SBOW is very, very bullish, but I like it to base first before jumping in it on the daily chart. I like the base to be proportional to the rally. And here's the SBSW or SB. Where is it? Um, oh, I'm sorry, SBOW. So the base is not that long and the rally is very long. So I would say no, but it's extremely bullish, obviously. Let's see. INTC weekly looks good, right? But the daily is not good on the INTC. I bet you the weekly will overcome the daily. The daily is just awful. Here's the weekly. And that's kind of, I mean, the weekly looks nice. Here's the daily. Tough daily. Really tough daily. UAL also nice weekly, but difficult daily. So I'm watching it. I'm going to add it to the backup ideas. UAL, but it's not as good as the DAL. The DAL is the open position, and that's the good one, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, I don't know if the CD is a buyout. It's not moving. It's the only China stock that's like not moving. It does look like a buyout to me. It really does look like a buyout. So I wouldn't watch it anymore. I used to have it on a chart and then I replaced it with something else. Doesn't move. Maybe a buyout, but I'm not too sure. Any questions at all? I've only been on for 30 minutes, but there's not a lot of symbols, not a lot of watches for tomorrow. There's a few. I like the Intuit the most, um, and I like the AT&T and the VZ simply because of their dividend. What do I think of WW? I'll take a look. WW. Uh, WW is doing a W pattern, is retesting the prior lows and moving up. So it does look looks higher long term. WW does look higher long term. Uh, okay, UBS, they are said to report a one-time profit of 30 billion on the takeover. Let's take a look. BS is, I'm sure, is on fire. No, it's not. I'm sorry, no, that's BZ. UBS. Yeah, it's on fire because I've seen it recently, not coming in at all with the regional banks. It was just on fire. I think it's too late if you're not in it already. I mean, it's very, very late. It rallied $4 in 2 weeks, $5 in 2 weeks. So I think it's too late. But I did notice it last weekend too when I scanned. So it does look good, but it's just too late here on the daily. Anything else? Anything else? Let me know. Of course, guys. Thank you. Again, slow day in the market today. So I told people if I were you, I'd leave today the daily chat room because it's just too slow. The EQRX, I was also baffled myself by how tight that base was on the EQRX. And then if you look at the weekly, it's even better. It's not coming up because I don't know what I'm doing. EQRX. I have the autocomplete turned on and it types W. So I was like, wow, this looks too good to be true. And it is too good to be true. It's a buyout. It is a buyout. So that's why I wouldn't do it. EQRX. All right, Leon. What else, guys? Anything else? All right. Well, that will do it for tonight's session. Thank you so much for being here, and best of luck with your trading the rest of the week. Thanks, guys. Talk to you in the morning. Most of you. Take care. Have a nice evening.